first because I was just chatting at supper and telling people how very far ahead Russian scientists are in this sort of thing from Western scientists. And I know a Russian scientist quite well who's very much involved with subtle energy and so on. I've spoken at his conferences and so on. But this is just this one of these enormous pyramids which were built since 1990. There must be 12 or 15 in different parts of Russia. And they very firm results from keeping seeds in the pyramid a few days and then sowing them get better crop yields, but also many other things like the return of some birds which have left and flowers which have been extinct and so on and so on. Not so scientifically special, but let's move on to the next one. So, motivated by that, I built one of those same dimensions in my garden. And then, learning about orgonite, I built one out of orgonite. This was it. I wasn't dowsing at that time, but I said to my friend Jim Lyons in the dowsing research group, I showed it to him and I said, what shall I do with it? And he said, why don't you douse it? So I picked up dowsing rods and, oh yes, they indicated very strongly. And that's what I douse. It's what's called life energy, orgone, or more recently, I call it a syntropic field. Syntropic as an organizing influence, as against an entropic field, which is a disorganizing influence. And I'll say a bit more about that. The word syntropic, by the way, comes from an Italian mathematician called Luigi Fantacchia, who very few people know about now, but he was quite a person. So what am I dowsing? Obviously, dowsers like you can put any kind of question into your subconscious and douse for an answer to the question. I don't consciously put anything into my subconscious. I just pick up rods and see how they move. And it's quite clear that my rods respond to a field of life energy. And there are many sources which, of course, the geometric sources like pyramids, and I've made a lot of use of a paper image of 5 spirals, which is a very good geometric thing. But also I've made a lot of use of electromagnetic sources, and especially what's called non-inductive coils, where the wires go parallel to each other, and they produce very strong life energy. And of course, living organisms do, especially human beings. Now, as I said, the orgone is now better known, I think, as syntropy, and this is catching on now. An influence of field promoting order or organization as in molecules in a living organism. And the opposite is entropy, of course, which everyone knows from their physics and so on, is an influence promoting disorder. Like when you burn something, it becomes disordered. And also evaporation of, particularly I've used evaporation of acetone, which happens very quickly and creates a strong entropic field. Now, I've some years ago, after I'd learned to dowse life energy, I developed this quantitative method. So what I do is I have a particular source there, perhaps a pyramid or something, and then I move out, and of course over the source, my rods do that, but as I move away from the source, they open out, and after a little bit, they start crossing and uncrossing over a number of rings. Probably not as many as that, but what I've been measuring, and this is the basis of my quantitative method, is the radius to the innermost ring. And I measure that with a tape measure, or even when it's very powerful source, a number of paces. So here's the proof that it is really a quantitative method. I just charged a large volume of water by putting it in that pyramid I showed you, and I poured out measured volumes and of this, and these measured volumes, and I dowsed the radius to the first dowsable ring, and here you are. It's a linear relationship. So it's a very good method, obviously. I've made a lot of use of the property of this orgone or syntropic influence can be transmitted non-locally by means of two identical images or two identical bits of information of any kind, but I've used images on paper and put one close to the source, and then you can dowse the energy of the source over the other copy at any distance. And they've even done it with samples of human hair, which has some influence specific for the particular person. I've got another slide which I won't bother to show. Now, in order to, as a scientist, I'm not satisfied with dowsing, airy-fairy things like dowsing. So I want actual measurements of real results from my work. And one of the ways of measuring life energy is its effect on plant growth. So I've put these little moonbeams, it is, in this incubator, and just touching the water. And I've got them on plastic grids, and every day I take out these grids and just blot them a little bit and weigh them. So that's what I do. And to apply I can't very well put a pyramid in the incubator, so I have to use this non-local transmission of the life energy, the syntropic influence. In this case, I'm using an electromagnetic non-inductive coil, energized at 10 kilohertz, and that's in a distant room from the incubator, and the link is this particular image, which is, does that come up? No, it doesn't. I'm using that image anyway, you can see it. Identical to this one. And that transmits the influence very, very effectively. Doesn't seem to go on to the next. Oh, yes. Here we are. The syntropic field promotes growth. And this is the results after only 2 days. And the weight added to the grid with the seedlings after 2 days on a number of separate experiments. Of course, these all have to be separate experiments. So here they are with the remote influence. I call it a scalar field, electromagnetic field, scalar field. And there it is, at average in 8, and controls average about 5. And that is very, very significant increase in growth. As I said, it can be at any distance. So I've been in communication with a guy called Carl Weltz in America. This was years ago, actually. I don't know. He was working with Orgone, and he had his logo close to a piece of Orgone in his room in the United States. And he put his logo on the internet and asked people to download this and feel the energy from it. Yes. So I was dowsing a copy of a copy of Carl Dels's logo and my piece of orgonite. So I compared those at different times of day, and I'm very proud of this result, which shows my piece of orgonite rises to a peak at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then goes down. And Carl Dels's logo comes to a peak several hours later, when the sun was highest over his place in the States. And this goes along with what Reich always maintained, that orgonite has no energy of itself. It just concentrates the energy from the sun. And that shows the relation to when the sun's highest in the sky, you get the highest readings. And now we come to a quite different thing, a much more recent work. And from the Russian work, it's due to mainly a man called Kozyrev, Dr. Kozyrev. He fell foul of Stalin and was sent to a camp somewhere, and he did all this theoretical work while he was in the camp. And then when he was let out, eventually, he did some experimental work. And he was able to show that subtle energy is reflected from aluminium, or even a silver mirror. Anyway, I've done quite a lot with this sort of thing, and I've used aluminium foil, and I've put it under, for example, a small pyramid, and I can't dowse it anymore. No. And I take it away, and then it becomes dowsable. This is where we come to the syntropic-entropic thing. I'm not able to dowse situations where entropy is being increased. No, I can't dowse a gas burner or candle flame or evaporating acetone, anything like that. It doesn't move my rods at all. But if you put aluminium foil under a gas burner, then I can dowse it. So this is what I call reversal of the order parameter. It goes from syntropic to entropic, and from entropic to syntropic, on being reflected from aluminium. But the amazing thing, which some of my members in my dowsing research group have also encountered, is this: if you just put the foil on your head, that also reverses the order parameter. So with foil on my head, I can no longer douse this pyramid or whatever syntropic source I am interested in, but I can douse an entropic source, combustion. Presumably a family wood coal fire or something. I don't know, I haven't tried that, but I've made a lot of use of evaporating acetone as an entropic source. And with foil on my head, I can douse that. So it's interesting how that works. I'm not sure how it works, but yes, I'll come to this bit next. But what is the foil doing? It's something. It's relating to my energy body, or whatever you call it, the subtle body. And I would like any opinions from you as to what it's doing. Aluminium will do this, and silver, but many other metals will not. Iron and copper don't work. So there's something special about aluminium, as Kozyrev found. So I began playing with sending a syntropic field through a solution of alum salt, aluminium sulfate. And so this is the, I've got underneath here this non-inductive coil, and in this pan I have either alum or sodium chloride as the control. And then there's non-local linkage by means of the information in this image to the other copy of the image around a pan of previously charged water. This water has been previously charged either in my pyramid or with this scalar field source, and it becomes highly dowsable. Of course, this water becomes charged, highly dowsable. But when I send the non-local scalar field through alum, it discharges the water very quickly. And this, again, I rather like this experiment. I use the word door from Wilhelm Reich. He called it dangerous Orgone radiation. And he seemed to think that it might be responsible for his daughter's health problem, but who knows? It could be in the long run. But this is in minutes at the bottom, and the passage of the syntropic field through alum solution discharges the water very quickly in minutes, whereas the water, the influence passed through sodium chloride as control does not. And then I did a similar experiment with the seedlings, but in this case, I treated them with a remote entropic field, or door, and as you can see, it inhibited the seedling growth very significantly. It can't be good for one's health, surely. No. Of course, you need to show that a process creating entropy, such as a gas burner, is actually doing the same kind of thing. So in this case, we've got identical images under each of those things, identical images, and these two are in distant rooms, and the gas burner also discharges previously charged water rather quickly. So, very recently I've put quite a lot of time into looking at the behavior of orgonite. And as Wilhelm Reich said, it depends on the sun, the energy of orgonite, unlike the geometric and other sources. It depends on the sun. Wearing aluminium on my head, what I do is I put a little piece of aluminium foil inside a berry. It makes me feel a little bit strange, I must say. Wearing aluminium foil on my head to enable me to douse entropic sources. And I can show that orgonite containing aluminium turnings, which some of it does and some doesn't. It depends how it's produced and when it's produced and so on. But I've made orgonite with wire wool instead of aluminium turnings, and that never produces an entropic field, only syntropic field. So it just reproduces what's the syntropic field coming from the sun.